somebody that's already dead? How are we going to kill somebody that's already dead?
It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. It's because of men like you that all must be destroyed. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive. None of those risks have been seen, at least not by anyone who still remains alive.
Monsta brain treatment was given to you. You are a robot, that's all you are.
Better not change your mind. You just better not.
10,
Better not change your mind. You just better
8,
not.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, and welcome to Tangents. If you know the name of the music you'd like to listen to, press 1. Enter now. Yeah. Hi, welcome to Tangents. I'm Andrew from beautiful sunny Cleveland, Ohio, here in Ick Studios, located miles below the Earth's surface. This is the only show on the internet. With me tonight is our usual band of fantastic people. The beautiful Jeff, the stunning Robin, the sexy Christoph, and Justin, who's kind of a slut.
I'll take that. I know.
Jeff, how are you tonight?
But I've been called
Fair enough.
so much worse. It's pretty light. It's light on adjectives, so it's.
Jeff, what's new in your world?
I unplugged everything that I own from everything else that I own, and then tried to scramble like an insane person to plug it back in today. That's what smart people do when they have a show on the internet. The only one. That was fun. So I did that.
Very good.
And I've been working on RPM.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to be an insane person with RPM as well. There's been a theme recently. And so Saturday and Sunday, I wrote 7 songs.
Jesus.
Possible
So you're done.
that some of almost. I've got 3 more to vomit up over the next couple of days. But it's possible that not all of them are 10 out of 10, which is kind of weird to say, given that I only wrote 7 of them in 2 days. But that's about it. I don't know. Just been holed up, hanging out.
Yeah.
Pulled out the Deluge to do I've done everything on the Deluge except for one, which is this has been good to dig it back out.
Yeah. Isn't it fun? It's fun going back into that non-comfort zone that is the Deluge song-making mode. I literally have to take a pen and paper and timeline it on like graph paper to figure out how I'm going to put this together.
Yeah.
And I like that for some weird sadistic reason. I guess masochistic.
Yeah. It's really the only thing that I actually don't like about the Deluge is that. I mean, like, there's things that I think that I would go, like, if I were the designer, I would do that differently, or I think about it differently, but I think that's just not very good. It's the only thing that I think is just not very good about it.
So how would you have it then?
I think it would be a lot easier if you could assign, for anybody who doesn't have one of these things, you have essentially a pattern, which is kind of like an individual loop or something enabled in, and then you have all of them seen together. So one is like, if you're in one, it's kind of like a piano roll, and then you can see all of them together, and you can lay them out on a timeline. When you're in seeing them all together mode, you can assign a color to them, which sort of like groups them into chunks. I think it would be a lot better if you could assign multiple colors to them. And if you could say this one's present in blue or red, I think that would make the arrangement mode a lot easier to get to or to work through. And I think that I would also allow you to set, instead of because when you're in the song view, it shows you on the little like 8 segment LCD screen, it shows you what the instrument number is or the patch name. I would let you set a number of a sequence or something. So you could name them A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 or something like that. I think if you could do something like that, it would actually be like pretty usable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Oh, Robin, you're not. We're not hearing you. Let me see if I can fix that. Stand by. That's because. Okay, Robin, speak for me.
Hello.
There. Now you should be in there. I muted your channel.
That's
because you haven't been on for weeks, and so I'm just got sad.
This is my retribution.
Thank you, SynthLab, for pointing that out. It's a good thing that. Are you drinking?
Yes, I worked out. What do you want?
Boozing up?
It's been a long day. Yes, it's 9 p.m.
Drinker.
It's fine. See? Oh, Chris up knows. See?
So, Robin, how are you? It's been so long.
Good. I'm doing okay. I've been busy with. I had knee surgery a couple weeks ago, so that's been keeping me out of streaming as much as I would like. But in the good sense, it's like I finished out doing January and ended up doing all 31 days of recording, which is good. And for some crazy reason, I blame Jeff. And attempting the RPM challenge as well. So, though my production quality will not be like good, but it's just a good practice of me trying to if one were to formulate a bunch of songs into one type of theme, how would it go? So that's been fun in the background. I've been trying to do stuff that's been like a fusion of chiptune video game music and industrial. So that's been kind of a lot of fun and different to work
Apparently
with.
we all been rubbing off on you with our gearhead electro-industrial pants people.
I mean, I'm okay with this.
I'm here for it. Yeah, your stuff's been really good so far. Really enjoying the stuff you've been posting and everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad your knee is recovering. And you'll soon be out stabbing motherfuckers again in no time.
Absolutely. As one does.
With good knees.
Yes. Good, healthy, healthy knees to stab people with.
It's all in the knee motion when you get a good stab going.
Honestly, dagger work really does involve the knees a lot.
I can imagine.
You gotta have good leverage.
I'm so glad I know someone who says that.
Yeah, for all those tuned in who, Robin does not randomly stab you. She's just just sword person.
I do historical fencing. I do it as a enjoyment on the side. It is not my day job. I do bank compliance. That's a reason why I do sword fighting on the offside.
And she also randomly stabs motherfuckers, but not randomly, just the ones that we pay her to.
Anyway.
I say not random.
It's very intentional.
Yes.
I think Robin is all Irish mobbed up over there in Boston. I think she's got her shillelagh in her .32 caliber, and she's out there doing that.
Not supposed to tell my secrets.
I love it. Well, it's good to have you back on. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being able to pop in there. Christoph, what's new in your world? How have you been?
I've been well. So like Robin, I've returned to my habit of blaming Jeff for things in my life.
Smart.
Yeah. So I've been working on getting my my laptop to have the same software that my desktop has on it, so that songs will be interchangeable going back and forth, which is always a project when you have to juggle iLock licensing.
Nightmare.
And yeah, so that's a lot of fun. I did some research on one of the stories that we'll be covering later tonight, and I've been streaming as usual. So
nice.
last weekend was one of my first weekends where I didn't have to pack up all my crap and drag it to some club in New York. I got to leave it all here and not DJ in a club and get Omicron. So
I'm glad you didn't get Omicron.
Yep. So in 2 weeks, I'll be DJing 2 nights in Manhattan, or one in Brooklyn and one in Manhattan.
Oh, nice.
But until then, I have a break and I just have to stream from home.
I've over the years I've found I really like streaming from home as opposed to playing out anymore.
Yeah, it's a much easier commute. This setup is much less
and it's
stressful.
safer.
Except for here are the 2 things that I have. Every time right before I stream, my internet goes out, or right after I start, like during my countdown, or like 1 minute before, my internet goes out, my Wi-Fi drops, and then I have to redo a lot of things. So I dislike that, and I dislike when equipment dies right before I stream, like webcams, which have happened, more times in the last year than I have in all my years of DJing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, but otherwise, yeah. I do like the
I think it was
more.
weird was playing a show like a regular concert and not being able to talk to people. Was weird, because I'm too busy, instead of and actually having to know what I'm doing beforehand, whereas opposed I can like stall and talk to people for a little bit while I'm trying to figure out what the fuck I'm going to do next.
Yeah, I mean, streaming is very different than playing a live show because, I had figured out that when we're streaming, we're hosting a party, and the interaction with the audience is the main thing. And in a club, nobody wants you to talk. They want you to shut up, and they want to, they want the songs to beat match, and they want to dance, and they don't really want to know that you're there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's completely different. And I handle them very differently, but that's why I don't stream my live gigs, because it just doesn't work. You have to choose which you're going to do.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's it'll be interesting because also a lot of the clubs here closed because of the Rona, so they're gone, and changed ownerships, and they're not doing things like electronic music anymore, and blah 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 blah. So there's nowhere really to do this stuff. So just I'll just keep doing stuff in my basement.
Yeah. Yeah, the main venue in New York for industrial closed. If and the place, the space in Brooklyn, just hasn't gained traction yet because people don't want to leave their boroughs, and people in New York will go to will go to Manhattan no matter what borough they're in. But other boroughs,
Brooklyn's a hard sell. Yeah.
Yeah, people in Brooklyn will go there,
right?
But people from Queens won't go there.
Yep.
And they're nearby, but so it's always tricky with that.
And unlike gigs in real life, you can actually make money from streaming.
It's true. That's the thing. I've made more money off of streaming than I ever did playing shows.
Yeah, you don't get paid in experience points anymore.
I know.
Or in drink tickets.
Yeah.
And if you don't cover equipment costs, streaming costs would be nothing to do. Like whenever I DJ at someplace, I might have to pay for parking. Might have to buy food. I have to pay for gas getting there, maybe tolls. None of that.
I just have to sometimes wear pants. Sometimes. If it's this view,
you gotta figure out the venue.
No trousers needed.
Well, I'd like to. At least I've never had to wear pants for tangents. So the other thing I've done recently is Jeff sent me 6 songs that I wrote in the same day.
Oh, very nice.
So, Jeff is.
He has
prolific.
been insane.
Yeah. And so you.
When your songs
Jeff,
sound the same, it's pretty easy.
No, they don't sound the same. You have one that doesn't have drums. That's more atmospheric. It's got a lot of reverb, and it's kind of drony. Yeah. And you weren't sure if you should put that on or not. I would keep that. That was one of my favorite ones that you did.
Thank you. That was a weird one to make. That's that was the one that isn't done on the Deluge. That is Hydrosynth and the S2400 in that, and then reverb, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, I will say I am biased because I've made something somewhat similar in a modular, in Caustics modular.
Cool.
But yeah, I like it.
It's good stuff. You're doing excellent. Justin, what are you doing? What's up with you?
Well, so I've been doing the sort of gear rotation lately to my friend Todd, and in the process acquired the Wave State from you, and a module, which is unbelievably small, like much smaller than I thought. And then you realize just how like little there actually was. Like it was just like one of those mostly keyboards.
Yeah.
That's since so kind of going on a little digital thing. Having fun with both of them. I don't know about the Wave State and writing patches yet. It's kind of like, it's kind of tough.
It's weird,
but just experimenting. Messing up existing stuff is kind of the phase I'm at with that. The Prophet 12 is a long story, but really kind of wanted to get some of that weird hollow digital stuff that it did really well. It's got a Curtis filter on board, so I think that pretty much completes my arsenal.
Nice.
Music-wise, finishing up that Ghost Terminal project. I probably have another track or two, and then I got to get into mixing mode. Thinking about a couple of tracks that I've released for Subsoma, releasing them as either EP or a single, just because I probably won't be putting anything out till later this year. So we'll see. We'll see what I get to.
Awesome. Very good. Well, it sounds like everyone's keeping busy and staying in trouble, which is what we want in this world.
What about you, Andrew?
What am I doing?
What are you doing?
I'm just releasing Incrementum March 1st. So the next Incrementum album, I just put the pre-order up onto the X Studios Bandcamp and threw everything up into DistroKid. So that'll be out on March 1st. 7 tracks to stare at your belly button with. So it's just very like ambient-y kind of stuff. Some modular noodling, some stuff on the Deluge, just whatever I felt like doing that day kind of thing. And then the track that you and I did together, the Jupiter track.
Yeah.
So that's in there as well. So I'm kind of excited about that. It's the first thing I put out in a hot minute. And I too am doing RPM challenge because I am a glutton for punishment. However, Jeff did not inspire me. Because Jeff inspires me only to be hateful. No, just kidding.
I accept.
Just because I'm always up. I'm always horny for doing a RPM challenge. So a little bit slower so far. I've only done 2 tracks. I've just finished a second one today. And I'm kind of digging where it's going. So it's not at all mixed and it sounds like garbage, but I kind of like it so far. So that's what is going on with me. SynthLab, I'll send you a picture later of me playing that concert in a spacesuit. It's just me, my spacesuit, and my guitar. Nothing says sex like a guitar. Anyway, we're not here just to talk about,
especially with a spacesuit. It's really the pairing.
It is. It's like fine wine and cheese. Lots of cheese. So much cheese.
Pretty powerful mojo. It's good stuff.
Fromage. Anyway, we are here to talk about the most exciting things in the world besides ourselves. There's nothing else that's exciting in the world except ourselves. That's why we're the only show on the internet.
It's a huge step down. It's like mention everything's on a scale of 1 to 10, but then we're 1,000.
It's true. So we're gonna lower ourselves down now and talk about stuff that some other people might think is interesting. That's not about us.
This will help you balance your dopamine because we're gonna blow it out like a coke addict.
And that's been Tangents. Have a good night, everybody.
Sounds good stuff. You come at me with these left hooks, man. I can't hack it. It's too good.
And that's how we got blocked on.
But also How I Met Your Mother.
Yes.
Oh.
Lots of cocaine.
Next up, Alex, tell you where babies come from.
Story time with Das Christoph. I was really happy before as I was getting things set up. I like to put on some streams, and I was really happy that I haven't seen in a long time that Mr. Horologist is back around. So I don't know if y'all are familiar with Mr. Horologist, But
No.
if you like the excitement of watch repair, this guy live streams watch repair.
So is this like ASMR kind of
Almost.
stuff, or what is this?
It's very like chill, and he has like these like ridiculously like macro lens cameras and stuff like that, and all kinds of things. And he's repairing like Rolexes and very expensive watches and stuff. And he kind of looks like Dr. Venture from the Venture Brothers.
That does
That
sound
is
amazing,
great.
actually. I love.
Yeah,
macro
it's
photography.
actually it missed
both on a good macro lens.
it.
Yeah, macro art's real interesting.
Mhm.
Like really.
And that's kind
tiny
of what this
little
feels
art
like. And
stuff.
some of the stuff he's like repairing is like some of these like have gears that have jewels on them and shit like that. And they're really weird. And he'll talk about it if you ask him about them and stuff like that. And he's just like chilling out and fixing watches. And that's
So he's like this
Yeah,
Swiss
kinda.
Bob Ross. That's what you're saying.
yeah. With happy
With
little
happy
gears
little
and the
gears.
Dr. Venture beard. And like the glasses with all the little magnifying things hanging off of them and shit like that.
Well, hook
Yeah.
this
Oh
up.
yeah, you should totally. Let me see if I can do this here real quick. Let me open that in a new tab. And Mr. Horologist into his house. Copy and paste that in there. So if you need something for like extra chill time, you want to take a quick nap or get fascinated by watching this dude, everyone's now going to leave and go watch Mr. Horologist.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See, I'm gonna go watch how it's made. I'm out of here.
Justin, get back here. We're talking.
This guy's
We have a show to do.
Getting blown on about how they fucking make ho-hos. Anyway.
Come suck out of the Twinkie tube.
Oh,
Is that what you're calling it now?
oh wow. We're double banned now. We're on double secret probation now.
So a funny story here in Cleveland, there's a bookstore that it's an online bookstore only, but it's they have a big warehouse. It's called Zubal's Books, and they have a lot of like rare antiquarian stuff and everything, but it's in an old Hostess factory, and they still have the Twinkie cream in one of the pipes. And the place has been not a Hostess factory since the 60s.
Oh boy.
And
Do they mean to have the Twinkie
yeah,
cream in the
because
pipe?
it's like
You
you
just
can't-
not get it
you
out.
you could actually ask
You
for a
can
squirt.
get in there, but you can get in there by invitation.
Yes, you can.
But it's very, very different.
And there's an episode of, I think, one of the Anthony Bourdain shows when he was in Cleveland. He went to Zubal's and he had a taste of the. I don't know what Justin was saying. He was Max Headrooming.
No, I was just Max Headrooming. I wasn't saying.
Okay. Sorry.
Da, 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 da.
Let's have a fundraiser to get Justin an Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
Cat 6, yo. So yeah, there's an Anthony Bourdain episode where he's in Cleveland and he goes to Zubal's and he gets a little bit of the cream out of the Twinkie tube. Know what I mean?
Did he live through that?
Well, he's dead now, so
There you have it, folks.
Yeah. We can't prove causation. We just know like one thing happened after the other. That's all we know.
triple ban on Twitch. All right.
Sorry. And that was hugely insensitive and yeah.
Yep.
Please put notices on the suicide line everywhere, Andrew, so I don't
You
get
know,
in trouble.
because yeah, so you go outside, we look up at the same moon that Anthony Bourdain looked at, the same moon that Napoleon and Julius Caesar. The moon is killing people. Wake up!
True.
Yeah.
It's true.
pretty much.
There's a Latin saying, I can't
Noli
remember
integra
what it
ibi?
is. The Latin saying is just because something follows something doesn't mean it's the cause. I have to find it. Anyway.
Oh yeah, it's one of the logical
Yes.
fallacies.
My Latin saying was "Don't touch me." There. It's good to know if you're ever like a altar boy.
Good God.
Nemo me impunilis.
So okay,
Mellotron.
Mellotrons.
Good idea.
Yep. Tonight's tangent.
One day we'll do a show where
tangents.
it's just like we're going to start with the news and just, oh, did you hear about this? And then nothing, but just tangents the whole time. And we'll all get to know each other better.
Open up the Sun or the National Enquirer.
Yeah.
That's the news.
Weekly World News.
And
Bat Boy
yeah.
is in touch with Joe Biden. News at 11. All right. So what's better than one virtual Mellotron? Two.
No virtual Mellotrons. 0.
All of them. All the virtual Mellotrons. GeForce, our good friends over at GeForce, have introduced a Mtron Mark II virtual dual manual Mellotron. Where did everybody go?
That includes me. Well, I mean, you can hear me. You can hear me.
That's
You can hear everybody.
That's fine.
I can see you. Just not in tangents.
All right.
The show is going on.
Tangents brought to you by
That's us
Skype.
getting
And now we're back.
That's because of that thing I did. All right, I'll put pants on later.
No more hot tub
Whatever.
streams.
Yeah.
Justin, cover your nipples.
Quit talking about Twinkies and mental illness, whatever we have to do. We're sorry.
Promise. Skype got offended.
Skype was like, you know what? Fuck you all.
It was actually just a recommendation that you get an Mellotron. And it's every time you say the word Mellotron, Skype's like, no, stop it. Nobody needs it.
Mellotron, please, coming for us.
Yeah, you all literally just disappeared off of Skype. What the hell? I can hear you all. Like there's like Jeff is like video frozen and everyone else's connection just dropped. My bandwidth was looking fine.
This is what I look like now. I had some plastic surgery. I am now a glowing white orb, an S in it.
Isn't it?
For Super Christoph.
Super Christoph, is that what this is? Oh my god.
For spite.
For spite. Of course. And now you guys are back again. Good job, Skype. Thanks for messing things up. Okay, so it's Robin's there. Yep, and Robin's gone again. All right, cool. Holy shit.
It's that kind of
All
a
right,
day
just
today, I'm
replace
telling
my image with like a spite stare.
I know. I just.
Like put some Studio Ghibli.
I know. I might just put something else in the. Okay, now. Okay, everybody. But no. Hey, everyone's back now. Holy crap! I don't understand. I'm just gonna replace you all with pictures of maybe some drawings that I've created of you all, some caricatures.
I would like to be represented by a Series 800 Model 101.
No, you're a 303.
Oh no!
Hey, Wombro.
Or what's the one that the Touch 303 was
The
that one that you
TR3,
have?
the TB3, the TD3. Yeah, you're the TD3.
It's not even
a real 303.
It's not even good enough to be the 303.
Yeah, it's not even a real TB03.
Yeah,
it's just
it's the most insulting of all.
It's the glowing green machine. Ugh. Anyway, GeForce has introduced I'm afraid to say it now because I'm afraid you're all going to disappear.
Call it the
Mtron Mark II. Woo! This is a virtualization of a popular tape-based synthesizer that was popular in the 60s. That I'm afraid to say, Mellotron. You're all still there. Okay, cool. Nope. Great stuff. You can't hide.
Wait, Beetlejuice. All right, just one more time. Let's win it one more time.
So yeah, this was the Chamberlain Music Master is what this is more of the emulator of, which I've never heard of a Chamberlain Music Master.
No, I haven't either.
So here's the deal, man. History time. Right. So the Chamberlain was the first thing, and it's a very complicated patent weird thing where some people stole stuff from other people. Like the guy that invented it was actually in the United States, and his business partner stole it and took it to the UK. And it's got a really weird heritage of how it actually got off the ground. Because I own Mtron. Yeah, I own the first one, Mtron. I have this weird love of Mellotrons. I don't really like psychedelic music. I like to make it do weird shit. But I do like the original Mtron. A lot, like a ton. Like, it's awesome. It's just like, to me, like it's earlier stuff, and it's just real. It's a little too Lounge Lizard for me. But if that's your thing, it's cool. It's got like more split with like sort of like bossa nova accompaniment type stuff. It's just not my jam. But some of it sounds pretty cool. And I guess if you're really into it, I know that what's his name? Spears. Dave Spears. Yeah, massive. Like, whenever they do something, the amount of research and intensity they go into it with is off the fucking charts. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I without knowing off the top of my head if I've heard a Chamberlain or not, I can't say that this thing does have that, like you said, Lounge Lizard cheese to it. Which is cool. But I don't think I would want to pay $200 for it myself, but I don't have much of a use for it. But I don't do much cheesy Lounge Lizard music. Much.
Yeah.
Yeah, give it time.
Beer.
I don't know anything about this one, but I will say that I have used so GeForce makes some other stuff that's pretty cool, like the Imposker is really nice. And then they also do a Mini Moog emulation called the Mini Monsta that is sort of like I mean, it's very accurate, but it's also, or they claim it's very accurate. It sounds like a Mini Moog to me. I don't know, but it also adds a bunch of other stuff to it. And it's pretty good. I used to have that. I at some point like lost my license key for it, or I over installed it or something over the years, but it was good.
Yeah, Mini Monster was the most authentic Mini Moog emulation for a while. It's one of the older ones. So it's been eclipsed since then, but it's still very good. Everything from GeForce is top notch. They're real experts. They really know their stuff. They're synth nuts. They also released the Oberheim 8-voice before Cherry Audio did, and theirs is more accurate. And again, added features not present on the original Oberheim 8-voice. So I think we all agree for the Mellotron, the original Mellotron, it has some use for us. This one, it's probably more for people that need to get a specific sound, or like are interested in like that kind of limitation, because the Mellotron is by its nature weird. It's historically very important because before the Mellotron, there was no way to really do this. And it was a clever way to do it, although it required a lot of labor and upkeep. And its results are weird. I think, so it's most famously used by the Beatles on Strawberry Fields, but it's also famously used by Kraftwerk for the Mellotron Choir, and Roland sampled that choir and on the Vintage Synth expansion card and the Roland MVS1, and it's a fantastic sound. But when Kraftwerk uses it, it's kind of like you sample a chord, and then when you play it on different notes, it doesn't play the correct chord. So it's just a little bit off. Like I think it's on Radioland for the strings, and there's a weird quality to it. But at the time, the digital samplers didn't exist yet, so there was no way to do this. So it's important. But for us, the Chamberlain, maybe not that interesting. But for somebody that's obsessive historian, then this is it, because this kind of stuff you just can't do it another way unless you have access to the stage. Who does?
New Order used that same sound. I think they horked it. I don't know if they sampled it or
they sampled it and they got a clearance Kraftwerk.
There was an article just recently about the Blue Monday choir sound. I was watching there.
Yeah, it's from Uranium, right? Yeah. And so Kraftwerk quite famously usually sues the crap out of people, but they did not for New Order. They allowed Radiohead to cover them, and they also allowed was it African Bambaataa?
No, they sued African Bambaataa originally.
They did so? All right.
They let and
Africa Bambaataa.
Yeah, because Planet Rock was the thing that they kind of weren't very happy about. But no, it wasn't Radiohead that covered them. It was what was that shit band? Not far off. I can't remember. That's how bad they were.
It was some band I don't like. I don't like Radiohead either.
I like Radiohead. I like some Radiohead.
All kind of
Coldplay.
The same to me, but I know that they've given people permission to do covers, and other people they do not.
Like they've
won some important copyright.
Apparently,
cases.
they absolutely love Senior Coconut.
Funny.
And because Senior Coconut's Kraftwerk album is fucking amazing, and apparently that's like they think it's the best. They think it's perfect.
So,
I think there's some room for parody. Yeah, I think if you can laugh at yourself a little, if you saw folks like that doing your tracks, you probably, it's kind of like Weird Al, right?
Yeah.
When Weird Al like covers, you've arrived, right?
Right. When Senior Coconut.
Yeah, a lot of people actually feel that way. And apparently, a lot of big stars go nuts when Weird Al's at a party and they run to him. So people love that Weird Al. They really do. So Womber asked, you can retro sample it? Well, it's not that there was a sampling law, but there was a publishing copyright, and that's been around for forever. So that stood, so you had the ability to sue just because of the publishing copyright. And Ujeku saw Kraftwerk on 34th Street. So that was the show they did back in 1998, I think, 99. So Kraftwerk is indeed a fantastic show live. If you get a chance to see it,
they are on tour this year.
Yep. I am going to see them in June. I blame me as well, Wambra. See what I did with the screens? I just blanked out all the screens.
It was meant to be.
I don't know. Is that visible?
Yeah, it's blurry.
It's not. Oh, well, that's me with Weird Al.
Oh, nice.
It's like the only topical photo I ever have.
Look at you.
I have a photo. That was when he was covering some of my music. He just wanted to get a photo with me. I was like, all right, Weird Al.
Oh, and the shit band I was thinking about was Coldplay.
Oh,
all right, that's not the one that I was thinking of. Another band, it's in an article about the process that they had to go through with Kraftwerk to get the permission. So they told them to call the studio at a very specific time to make the request because they have no ringer. And then their response was they just got an envelope and it just contained the one word yes.
Yeah, Coldplay is like this sort of adult contemporary version of Nickelback,
They can all individually play their instruments pretty well, and all of their music is so well produced, and it is still somehow so goddamn soulless and terrible. They're technically completely proficient. They're absolutely adequate in every way, and yet somehow the sum is worse and less than the parts. It is impressive.
It really is.
That's the art. There's the art, folks. We found it.
We'd rather watch the fucking river dance cover of Clocks than the original. You've gotten into a bad headspace.
Dance is kind of rad, to be honest.
On Tangents episode 25, we make enemies.
It's different than all the other episodes.
How is that different than anything else? You're just casting a wide
Michael Flatley joke.
I know, right?
Welcome to Tangents After Dark, where we talk shit.
Also just known as Tangents. I guess we're in Twitch fair play time zone, aren't we, at this point?
It's after 9 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
It's like Adult Swim concept.
Oh my God. All right. Well, so that's the virtual Mellotron, Mtron Mark II. Buy it if you're into cheese. I love cheese myself, but not that kind of cheese. Okay, well, this was something that was cool that Robin sent in. This is the rather clever idea of having a patch bay that's a desktop unit. And this is the DF Audio Mini Bay. It's a 40-point audio patch bay. Robin, take it away. Tell us about it.
Well, it's just interesting because it's like I mean, again, I'm newer to this than all of you, but I almost would have just assumed like something like this would have existed, like similarly to any other type of patch bay. So I kind of find it interesting that, it's just, I know for me, just with a standard mixer and having to there's like some of my stuff that's wired through the mixer. There's some of my stuff that's wired through the circuit tracks as a thing. And I just feel like this patch bay could be really useful in like being able to mix and match what I'm doing with all of my effects pedals and my synths that like gets put aside that I have to like rewire in on special occasions. So I think the concept of this is really cool.
No, I agree. I think that I'm amazed that there isn't something like this, because it makes sense.
It is kind of surprising.
Right. Like, how did someone not take advantage of this sooner?
Yeah, totally.
That said, though, I mean, a patch bay, I mean, I guess if you've got a mixer on your desktop, it's kind of already messy, but a patch bay does have a bunch of spaghetti coming out of it.
True.
Yeah, but
well, modular people shouldn't have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Actually, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I think this is good. They're going to sell a ton of these because just as people are going DAW-less, I see a lot of people going rackless. I've seen a lot of shows where people are just taking up giant desks and people's home setups where it's just desk-based. Nobody's going vertical anymore and twisting the knobs this way. It's all like this.
Yeah.
So, I can totally see these things showing up at shows and tables of wires. The way people love, so there's people like when they're computers, they don't want any cables. They want to go all wireless. But with synthesis, they want all wires and LEDs, blinky lights and cables everywhere and confusion to make it look like this is the best fart noise ever made.
I call that the experimental lunch table.
Yep. And I think people love that kind of stuff, and people are going to buy these things. Like, I think it's going to sell.
Yeah, I think
really
it's fantastic. It's $150, so it's like it's.
I'm rack mount. I'm not going back from rack mount, so it's not for me. But for other people, absolutely, it's going to sell.
And if you don't have a lot of space, this is actually pretty handy, because if you don't have room for a rack, then this is great. It's $150, which is also, that's pretty great as well.
Yeah.
Which is a great deal.
You got 40 patch points. You've got different FX inserts and returns on there and stuff like that as well. I mean, it's just like, it's a great little unit. This is really clever. I like the fact that it will, like the patch bay itself is all mini jack, like your Rec style mini jack plugs. And then all your inputs and stuff like that are just standard in 1/4 inches. So that's kind of a clever way of doing it.
That is very clever and convenient.
Because there's less of a chance of it being too spaghetti-ish.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like my patch bay, I have like, like 12-inch patch cables, and that looks like shit over there. I'm looking at it right now, angrily. How dare you?
I'm looking at mine too and feeling very attacked because I definitely don't have 3 patch bays in a mixer.
And it's not
That's
vomiting
not what's going
spaghetti
on
everywhere
at all. No, there's certainly not 24 cables coming out of my patch bay right now. That'd be weird. Why would you do that?
I don't know, Jeff.
I don't know.
So yeah, this thing is pretty slick. DF Audio Mini Bay, available wherever fine mini bays are sold. Yeah, good find on that one.
That is cool. Another thing that people, I think, don't know about patch bays, but I will now teach somebody something, maybe, or maybe everybody knows those things.
Teach us.
You'll probably teach
that I think they don't know. We'll find out. Easy. It's very easy to turn a 1/4 inch cable into a MIDI cable. and you can make a MIDI patch bay out of a 1/4-inch patch bay. So if you want to do an I/O patch bay, it does require some hands-on like splicing of cables, but you can put MIDI heads on the like a standard 5-pin DIN MIDI head on a audio cable, and then you can use it as patch bay, which is pretty neat.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So if you want to reroute stuff, it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't. I mean, obviously, it's not like something like a iConnectivity or a Motu or something like that where you're actually like merging and everything. But if you wanted to go from here to here to here, if you don't want to just be plugging things in all the time, you can do that, which is pretty handy.
That's pretty slick.
And then you can use any audio patch bay to do that, which is pretty inexpensive. That one looks really cool, I have to say, and it is, for the person who wants that form factor, it's really cool. And I agree that having the 3.5 millimeters is neat, but it is kind of expensive. So for anybody who doesn't have a patch bay and is looking at just like in general looking at patch bays, I have 3 of these Art P48s, which are actually like, I don't know, Art stuff's fine. It's a division of Tascam. It's fine. It's not great. It's not bad. It's like right down the middle of the fairway. But the P48s are really good, and they can either be normed or half normed. And I've never had any trouble with any of them. And they're like 90 a pop.
I have some of those as well. But the form factor is a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I think that like the form factor isn't bad on just even if you just have them loose, not in a rack. It's still not that terrible with those because they're not long racks. They're really tiny, short little guys. So even just sticking them.
Yeah, they're like 3 or 4
and half the time,
deep.
like I mean, at least for me, it's like I don't patch much once I get them set up. So I'm not like jumping in there and like fucking with stuff all the time. Like right now, everything is set up to like with like some of the gear for doing live streams through Studio One. And that's been sitting like that for about the past 6 months. So I'm not plugging stuff in and out of there very often. So
yeah, mine don't move a lot either. And if you've got them sitting on your desk, another pro hot tip from a dude who didn't have a rack for a long time is if you take zip ties, because in the ears they've got the holes where the screws go through. If you just stack them on top of each other and then zip tie through the holes on top of one another, they're actually like really quite stable. Like most rack things are actually just like quite stable and they're very flat. So you just can stack them on top of one another, zip tie the sides up, and just kind of like lace them and you're good.
There you go.
Science.
Technology. Like string beans. That's right, Wambra.
Yes, exactly. You gotta make sure you take the string out before you.
Just don't eat your patch bay. All right. So 1010 Music has been busy lately. Putting out their little desktop units here. They put out 2 of them. One being a granular synthesizer and one being a wavetable synthesizer. The Lemon Drop and the Fireball are what these things are called because one is yellow and one is red. And these are cute. That's all I got to say about it now. So I have, I've had like the couple of the 1010 units in my Euro rack. I had the Bitbox and the Toolbox. And the thing about those, which was kind of neat, is that you could swap out their firmwares with the SD card that was in there. So you were able to, like with the Bitbox, you could swap it out to Synthbox, and then it was a wavetable synthesizer. And then you can swap that out with Effects Box, and you have a bunch of effects processors and stuff in there. So I wonder if these are the similar kind of idea or not. No?
You can't. No, you can't swap them. No.
Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah, bummer, eh? I know. Well, here's the funny part. I only know because I watched the demo that Gaz Williams and Nick Bat did, because I was super curious because they looked lovely, and I'm like, so many things that look like toys I'm always very skeptical about, but I'm like, I'll give it a try. And yeah, they were kvetching about that, understandably, because the form
absolutely.
factor is identical,
and they're
but
probably
it just
running
doesn't
the
make any
exact
sense.
same firmware.
Yeah.
Because that's what 1010 was doing, is that they were just basically like, because they had a Series 1 box and they had a Series 2 box in Eurorack, and then the Series 1 box you could run all those things, and the Series 2 box you could run Toolbox, or you can run Laserbox if you want to use it as a laser controller. And you just had to just basically download the firmware, and it was free, and then you would just plug it in there and like, you know, reboot it, and it would go into that new mode. So I'm surprised that, well, actually, I guess I'm not that surprised, because, you know, why have someone spend $500 once when you can have them spend $500 twice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It sounds really good, though. So I have a long legacy sort of. I first got a granular soft synth maybe 2017, something like that. I really couldn't rock it at first. I mean, I was able to make some cool noises, but it all sounded real samey. It was kind of like my early FM experience. I used to call Granite. It was pretty interesting. And then on the Iridium, I discovered if you mix it with other stuff, like in layers, it can be really, really cool if you put effects on it. So it's pretty endless and sweet. And this thing sounds really good. I mean, for what it is, it's pretty amazing, honestly. The wavetable one sounds good too. I guess we'll talk about that later, but I really like the sound of this. I mean, I rarely play these kind of toys unless they're video game toys, in what case I do, but I'm tempted. I like it.
I had a black box, and it had a granular sampler in it, or granular synthesizer, I guess. And it appears to be very similar. I mean, I haven't had it for a couple of years, so the firmware's been updated some, so it looks like it's very similar. It was pretty good. The granular synthesizer in it was definitely the strongest feature of that device. It was a very good chromatic synthesizer in the sense that, like, it was very easy to pick what what chunk of your sample you wanted to use as your oscillator, but it didn't have good controls. Like, it didn't have, it didn't really have much of a filter. It didn't have an LFO or anything. So in those terms, it wasn't very powerful, but it sounded good, and it did a really nice job of pitch adjusting. And the granular synthesizer was pretty cool, and the interface on it made it really actually, because I had the similar experience that you're describing, Justin, where the first time I was messing with a granular synthesizer, I was like, this just doesn't make sense. You're essentially like defining and then you're saying how many grains are in that region, and then how quickly do you want to adjust, through the grains, and how randomized is that? But it made it a lot more visual and sensible on the 1010, which I thought was pretty cool.
10's a little bigger, right? Bigger form factor than
the black box. Yeah, it's a little bigger, but
black box. Yeah.
The one thing I will say about my experience with it is that its UI was like aggressively poor.
That's how.
And I don't know if they fixed that on these. It looks very similar. It's very silly.
That's kind of how I felt about the bit boxes and stuff like that, especially the toolbox. The idea behind the toolbox was it was a little, like I said, it was a Euro rack with the touch screen like these do have, and it gave you I think it was like 6 sequencers, and like they could be chromatic or they could be gate, and then they gave you 4 LFOs, and they're all independent LFOs, and that was cool. But the problem was that it was a key, like a keyboard entry sequencer. So you had to and the screens were so small, and you're like trying to touch it to put the note in there, and it was almost fucking impossible. And I talked to the dude, and he's like, "Here, just use this little pencil thing." And I'm like, "Oh, fucking A, are you kidding me?"
Yeah. So I had the same thing that happened with the black box, and they said just use a stylus, and here's the stylus we recommend. So I got the stylus, and the stylus literally was not small enough to use the sampler's sequence. So you guys are like, literally, it's unusable.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I would not buy something else from 1010 at this point.
Yeah. No, I like the blue box, from what I understand, is really cool. And I know that Information Trade, Johnny, has one, and I've seen him use that a lot with like this Deluge and like some other pieces of gear. Having a little teeny tiny mixer like that, especially if you're not going to be messing around with it very much and you're playing out and stuff like that, I can see that being really handy and useful.
For sure. And if you buy cables that can all plug in.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that the back of it's so tiny that you have to get specific teeny cables to plug into it in order for it to work right. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to plug them all in. And again, come on, guys. I understand you want small form factor, but this is getting a bit silly.
Yeah, like an extra 5 millimeters won't kill you.
Yeah.
You can't do audio through the USB either. It's power only, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Do you think they would add that?
That was the same with the black box, which also, this is the dumbest thing to be upset about, but it really agitated me. It agitated me to the point that I found USB cables that had rocker switches on them. It doesn't have a power switch.
I do that. The Minotaur doesn't have a power switch, and I've got it rack mounted, so I had to buy a cable with a rocker switch.
Unacceptable.
So I turn it on and off because I can't get to the back of it because it's mounted.
No, that's not all right. I want switches on things.
Yeah, so it's they make some interesting design decisions. That's the nicest way I can put it. But I hope they sell a lot. I mean, they're going for about $500 a piece for the nano boxes, the Fireball and the Lemon Drop. One's red, one's yellow. They're the exact same interface, but you can't switch out the firmware on them. So you gotta buy one each if you want wavetable and granular synthesis. I don't know. Again, 1010's kind of been like, I really wanted to like what 1010 does, but then that interface just makes me so angry.
Yeah, even looking at this one, I'm sorry, I just got to be that guy. Like I've done UI design. I've worked in design for 100 gazillion years. The thing they've chosen, so I'm looking at the Lemon Drop with the promo screens. They have these squares and it says like filter, envelope, LFO, sequence, FX. The giant fucking letters in the middle of it that say filter, and these like teensy tiny little indicators of what you're doing. Like, bro, you have it backwards. I don't need to see filter in 100-point font. I need to see where I am on the filter. You know what you could have done? You could have not used a 100-point font to write the word filt on there, and you could have told me what frequency my cutoff was at. That would have been a novel idea. You could have done that, but you chose the other one instead. And like whenever I was looking at the UI on these things, it was just like constantly like stream after stream of this stuff. And I feel like it is a very one-person shop, which I mean, like, good on this small team for doing this stuff. But man, it's like there are a lot of people out there who have done UI and UX design who could in literally like 15 minutes come through and just look at this thing and do, like, I could go through in 15 minutes and have given them enough suggestions that they could have probably made the UI more than twice as good. And there are many people, like, I am not unique in that ability. Like, there are many people who are designers who could come through and make it more than twice as good. And it's just, that was the thing that frustrated me so much about it.
Yeah, but it's
they couldn't bring Axel Hartman in. He was just too expensive. So
What was that, Christoph?
Yeah.
Oh, but his mom loved it. She
Yeah,
thought it was fun.
exactly. So he was very handsome.
It's hanging on the fridge.
Very handsome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got the, hey, mom, I made this thing. Yeah, you're right.
And that bummed me out about it because in so many cases it was so close to being so good.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about like some of the other things too. But there's like these weird little design decisions that they decided to do that you're just like, this is not. It's not good.
Yeah.
And they just end up not using
Like,
it, and that's the thing.
you-
Is like the thing advertised. It's got like fucking 4 sequencers on there, or 4 sequencers. You can
Can't
sequence the
zoom
shit
in
out
on
of
those though.
Yeah.
You can't zoom in so the steps
but
get
it's
bigger.
just
Why
like-
would you
but
want to do
then
that?
it's just like you're not going to use it. I use the LFOs a lot because that was great. I love the fact that I had that the multiple LFOs and that kind of thing. And I would use the drum sequencer mode because you had to zoom in on it and have it play notes, and that worked fine. But it was just infuriating. It made me hate Eurorack even more.
Yes.
So good luck, 1010. Hope it works out for you.
Consider it constructive criticism.
There you go.
Maybe these are better too. I mean, it's been a few years since I've had one.
Well, I know that some people really, really dig those things, but then there's people that dig it, and they're like, it'd be better if this, there's like this one weird design decision that they had that's just and no one can understand why they had to have it that way. Like the back of the blue box, with the, only got these cables because nothing else will work. You're like, you're not in bed with the big cable industry or something like that.
Well, then you just wonder, like, do people buy it for the novelty more than anything else than the true functionality?
That could be the case. I've been guilty of that in the past, which is why I don't have the Polygon tracker anymore. And speaking of garbage interfaces, the Teenage Engineering.
Oh, the Swedish plastic hipster toy. Yeah.
The OPZ, the OPZ, whatever you want to call this bloody thing. So on the back of it, when you pop open the 4 little Lego screws attached to it, there's a little Lego space in there. Literally, you can interact with these things with Lego, and it will work fine. There's a little Lego thing that place inside of it that allows you these expansion modules. I'm speaking from experience because I have an OPZ that I can't sell because it stopped working correctly. And Sweetwater stopped carrying Teenage Engineering stuff because they were having so many issues with their support. So the 3-year warranty that came with it was no longer valid.
Dang.
Thanks,
That's
motherfuckers. And
So you got a paperweight.
And
you got a Swedish plastic
Teenage
paperweight.
Engineering's support is horrendously bad. So getting in touch with them is almost impossible because they're so much on the edge.
Are you sure it's not working right? I mean, how could you tell?
Have you tried rebooting it?
You can't have the FM radio built into it. That's how we can. That's how we.
It doesn't change the channel on TV anymore? Or?
Lego remote.
I mean,
Is
it's
this
still
thing
a
on?
paper stick, right?
That does suck though because they are expensive. They made another insert pack. This is it's the dumbest one. So this is, hey folks, you have I can't even like words this one. It's so dumb. Here's a sampler. Now you can line into it. That's novel. They made one that turned it into the world's worst vibrator that was like $260.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the last
They made
one.
3 of them so far. One of them was the Midi and CV. One of them was the world's least pleasurable vibrator. And one of them is now this line in and output device.
So it's actually a sampler now.
Sure.
So, I mean, that takes a lot of chutzpah to make shit that's broken. You know, like.
Yeah. And You know, here's the thing. Like, I liked the idea of this device because it's ridiculously portable. It's ridiculously easy to use and figure out and stuff like that. But it's built so poorly. So poorly. And like, I had an OP1 back in the day and I actually sold it for a profit, which was kind of cool. And the OP1 was fun until it wasn't. And then it was just like hipster and irritating. I'm not saying all hipsters are irritating, just this particular hipster was. And then the OPZ, they tried to make it clever, and in doing so, they made it, again, it was cool, and then it wasn't. And then when it stopped working in the dumbest way possible. So it still works, I should say. Okay, so I can press buttons on it and still make sound. The problem is that if I press a key, sometimes it'll make that sound 16 times. Sometimes it'll make that sound 3 times. Sometimes it won't make that sound at all. So the key triggering is fucked up on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's probably got dust in it. You just got to take it apart.
Yeah, it
doesn't.
It's stochastic music. I like it.
It's irritating as fuck. So yeah, it's glitchy. And they're like, oh, you can, run a software update on it. No, it doesn't help it. And it's built. It's I don't know. It's just crap. It's just garbage. It sits on my desk, underneath my desk, in a little case that someone 3D printed for me, and it will sit there until the heat death of the universe. And now I can get an expansion card in it that I can use it online and out for it. Yay!
Nice.
And I was gonna put this in the news item, but someone came out with an editor librarian for it for your computer, which is hilarious because the only way that you can actually edit anything on this thing is with the app that they make for it that you run on a computer or phone, iPad. And
cool.
That's garbage too.
Cool.
Yeah, okay. I'm done. I think I'm done.
You sure?
I think so. Okay. Yeah, the compressed air trick doesn't work solving then. Nothing works. So yeah, this device that they came out with is a line in, line out expansion module that basically expands it so you get was it one line in, one line out, and then you have an in out that you can make it MIDI or trigger or PO for your pocket operators.
It'll also let you use stereo now.
Finally. And you can also use it for headphone queuing as well. That's kind of okay. That's handy. So you can listen to your stuck notes while you're in a headphone queue. That's handy for it. Yeah, so Does anyone else have anything to say about that?
I'm good.
Nothing.
All right.
Yeah, I will say if you put it in a blender,
it will blend.
There you go.
It will, in fact, blend.
Andrew, maybe you could offer that up as the synth that gets hit by a sword.
If I could lay it on top of the TB3 or the TD3, and then you can wail on it.
There you go.
Yeah, both of them.
Make a little sandwich.
We can record that into the deluge and it'll finally be useful. Oh my God. Okay. I'm bitter. So bitter. Speaking of oh my god, OMG Instruments has turned their popular Blue ARP plugin into hardware. In the world that we live in now, where hardware constraints and microprocessors and semiconductors are jacking up in prices because they're getting difficult to get their hands on, oh my god Instruments has decided to turn one of their 8-track arpeggiator software into a piece of hardware. It looks cool.
It looks cool.
It does. It's blue. It's very blue.
Yeah, it's visually.
It is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I listened to some of those, and it actually. Look, I get the feeling it could totally have buggy software, or it could have where it's a small company. I can't attest to any quality, but it looks cool. I generally don't like little desktop sequencers, and you know how I am with that. It's either $1 or my MPC, and I really can't wrap my head around. But this is attractive, and it looks cool. It sounds cool, like what you're able to do with it.
It is cool. It's neat looking. I like the idea that you have an 8-track arpeggiator. It's $730 for 64 steps.
Well, to be clear, the reason that it is expensive,
Mm-hmm.
it is a stupid price, but it is only a stupid price in the objective sense. In the subjective sense, the price is probably fine. And what I mean by that is it's literally one dude who has taken it on to figure out how to turn a Raspberry Pi into this physical contraption, and they're handmade, and he's selling them.
Yeah, they're very boutique-y,
cool.
definitely.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like in the subjective sense, it's probably reasonable. I mean, if you were asking me to bake in my own personal R&D costs, and then go divide my way to building this thing and build it, and then get the materials and have them built and sell them, seems I don't know, like how much could this dude even be making on these? $100 each. He's not getting any scale on it.
Yeah,
so.
This is a labor of love for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Like in the subjective sense, it seems like kind of a fine price, but it's all you really got to want to have one.
Yeah, I don't think I'd actually pick one up, but they do look cool, and they sound cool. And maybe it's somebody's workflow dream. It's like step sequencer.
Yeah, and it's also a generative
that's pretty interesting.
sequencer too. So
Oh,
you
I
do have
didn't
some.
know that. That's
you
cool.
do have some cool options as far as like what you can do with this thing and stuff like that. Some things that would be interesting to find out is if you can do things like different sequence lengths per sequence. If there's other styles of sequencing, like the generative, is there like a Euclidean mode on there and stuff like that? I have not played with the Blue ARP.
Yeah, polyrhythm would be nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It is cool looking. It's not something that I would be going into very much, but it is a neat looking device, and I can see it. You can having a lot of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a real sucker for blue, and I like the colors on there. I think that's cool. Do you remember the beat thing, Andrew? Yeah, I still have my beat thing. I mean, it's actually pretty darn cool. But it had a similar color scheme, but it looked more like a sort of like tricked out car, with like blue lights in the chassis, and it had that sort of vibe, but it had the same blue colors. And that was very cool. Speaking, Jeff, from a design perspective, you might actually have liked the design thing. It was probably the easiest sampler sequencer that I've ever used. The software was a little buggy, but the design was really cool with it.
Nice.
Is that company that makes it still around?
BK Tech or whatever they were called. No, they were based out of Tennessee, Memphis, Nashville, somewhere. I can't remember it. His dad was a famous guitar player, famous R&B guitar player. So he came up. I think they were trying to fill that gap before the MPCs. It was after the MPCs, but it was during that time period where they were just making MIDI controllers, and they were like, "Hey, you want a real standalone thing? We're gonna make one," and they did, and it was pretty fucking awesome. But I don't know, something went weird. Small company, things didn't go the way they wanted, and they just went bust like in about a year and a half, I think, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, I remember that. But yeah, so it's cool. If you ever need something like that, want something like that, want to spend that, want to help the dude out, right? Otherwise, you can also get the same thing as a soft synth, because it's or I guess not soft synth, but a plugin. Blue ARP.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the one that I would be buying. I mean, I don't know if I'll buy it when it comes up, but I've had my name on the Circlon waiting list forever. That's the one weird sequencer that I think that I would go in for. Stupidly priced, weird sequencer.
If you like weird sequencers and you like stupid prices, you've got options.
Yeah, you could look. You could have the Circlon. You can have this thingamajig, the Blue ARP.
Blarp.
Yeah, you could chase down the what is it, the social entropy engine. That's another weird one that is now very expensive because they stopped making them.
What about the Squarp? The Pyramid, I think, is kind of a weird one too.
The pyramid, I don't know. The Pyramid makes so much sense to me, and maybe that's just because I've used it so much. But it just feels so sensible to me that.
Yeah, I can see that, but at first blush, it looks weird. Like you look at this thing, and you're like, "What the? Like, how is this? How am I making sequences off of this weird little hoo-ha?"
It is, as I'm looking at mine, it is a funny looking little contraption, but it's so good.
Actitect is diving into the Torso TS1, which I'm not familiar with at all.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of weird sequencers.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit about that one, but I don't know. It's more sort of like a, if I'm recalling, I just looked. Yeah, this is I had to look up a picture of it. It's kind of something that you
oh, okay.
Kind of compose on, but mostly sort of play, right? It's kind of like algorithmic and generative.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is a weird one.
It does look cool, though. Looking forward to seeing it on your future streams, Actitect.
Yes, please.
So we can judge it.
It doesn't look like it's built very well, though. It doesn't look like it's going to hold up to like the Chordbot in terms of build quality.
So I sneezed on my Chordbot the other day, and I don't think it works anymore. It snapped in half. No, I'm fine. I'm kidding. It didn't. It's fine. I was just joking.
Yeah, I love
the sacrifice table,
right?
No way! Don't sacrifice that Chordbot.
No, it's
over here. They're fantastic. It is not the best made thing in terms of like physical design, but
yeah, it absolutely
is it useful.
Especially if you're not a chord person. Like I am.
Yeah. It's very good.
So, speaking of things that aren't good, are great. I guess depends on how you feel about them. Ableton 11.1 has come out. Good job, Ableton. Unlike Reason, they have M1 support now in them. Which is nice. Native support for the M1 processor. Now you just got to make sure your plugins are all M1 compatible. Otherwise, you're going.
Yeah, I was just gonna say lies, lies, all lies. This is what happened with Studio One. I think I mentioned the
Why
last.
is everybody making everything compatible with the Korg M1?
Because that's where it began, my friend. That's where the house piano sound was a thing. And so they're going back, and that's becoming popular again.
Piano, man. That house piano is on its way back. Man, back in the Frankie Knuckles days. I tell you, no, it's good for them, but it is a problem that a lot of these smaller shops are updating their plugins. Even some bigger shops aren't. So I hope you have the ability to toggle back and forth. If you're a Mac user, you're totally, you end up having to use the AU versions of everything, which you will take a massive performance hit if you do that.
Well, you can still use the VST versions and stuff like that, so it's not.
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, the problem is that a lot of the plugins that are VST3s are not M1 native compatible. And so that's where you get into this decision, like, do I run this thing in Rosetta and so I can run my VST3s, which will, you know how they can sleep and they can be a little bit more sensible about how they're using the CPU. So you have to do this sort of like math where you compare like native with the AU versus the it's not my favorite part about music.
No kidding, right?
I was told there'd be no math.
Here we are, mathing. Yeah, so the M1, capabilities and stuff like that, great. Most of your plugins are still, which is weird because it's like you just got to bloody well recompile them, folks. It's not a big deal. The tools are free.
Yeah. Weird.
They have some smaller bug fixes in here. Updated shifter device, which adds a new mode for real-time monophonic pitch shifting, as well as delay and envelope section and LFO. They have 2 new Max for Live utilities, a line delay and shaper Midi, to compensate for lag when sending signals throughout their systems. And it's a free update as long as you own Live.
Well, although you can just recompile, if the libraries that you're using haven't been ported over to that development, then it won't compile unless you have updated libraries.
That's true.
So I'll bet you a lot of people are dependent on libraries that are no longer updated, and that's a huge holdup.
Yeah, especially if they're using really old libraries because they've had them around for however long.
Yep.
Yeah, and if they're written in C or C++, like the way those languages handle libraries is totally shitty, even after like 40, 50 years.
And C++ is still probably one of the most common languages used for writing these.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm glad that Ableton's, keeping up with the Joneses. Maybe Reason will do it one day. But I mean, I'm not on M1 here except for my iPad, so I'm okay as far as that's concerned. Yeah. Now for some fun news. Who misses the Mini Korg 700? Hands up.
The cars. Oh, sorry.
Christoph misses it. Jeff misses it.
I think it looks like a camp stove. I love it.
This thing's great. Those guys, I think they're Centaur, they're called.
Yep.
They're out of Florida somewhere. They're the ones that do all the size pairs. They do an unbelievably badass review of this thing. I watched it. I was like super into it. I didn't even know much about this other than with face had Tom York. This was like his first keyboard, and but yeah, that's really that. And
Human League, I think, used it too.
But
all right, so for me, I think the most famous use is Daniel Miller of the Normal.
Mm-hmm.
This is the keyboard he did Warm Leatherette with entirely.
I didn't know that. No shit.
Yeah, so he bought it secondhand. He was working as a TV editor, and he bought it, I think, around 79, so it had been out for 5 years, so he probably got it used. And yeah, it's all tracked. It's multi-tracked on a 4-track, or he was bouncing back and forth between 2 reels. And so the drums,
Wow.
the Mini Korg 700S.
For some reason, I thought that was his roller, but I think that was later.
That was later.
I didn't
This
know
was
he did
his
that. That's so
first one. This is what put him on the
Yeah.
map. So he went to Roughreed and he
Yeah.
was going to make 500 copies, and they said no, make 2,000, and it sold out, and it did really well. So he then had a label, and he signed a band called Depeche Mode,
I think I've heard
and
them.
it worked out. So yeah.
Yeah, rest is history. Yeah, yes, obviously too. But I think what's so cool about this thing is it's so unbelievably simple. It has a lot of features that it's not full featured, but if you, this is, it just looks like a hell of a lot of fun.
Well, it was built to sit on top of an organ, and in the article that we've shipped, it's shown on top of an organ.
Yeah.
And that's why it has that
Yeah.
layout. Like the controls aren't on top because that's where your sheet music goes, and it doesn't have the traditional synth parameters the way that we're used to. Because, in my opinion, all subtractive synth layouts are based on the Prophet 5 or a variation of the Prophet 5. That became the dominant layout. And here it's not. It's it would take a few minutes to figure out, like, wait, how do I do the high pass filter, and can I modulate the pulse width modulation? That kind of stuff. It's not apparent. And they've got like controls like Traveler for controlling things. So it's a different kind of layout. But people did interesting work with it. It sounded really good, and it really helped put Korg on that map for entering the synth market. And and as we mentioned, it had a few really famous users like the Normal, Human League.
You can do your cover of Being Boiled finally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Vangelis used this too, which is insane. And it's so cool because I didn't even think about that. But remember all those like Ace Tone, those like tabletop drum machines that were coming out on that time period, and they were all meant to sit on top of an organ. And now I'm looking at it, like, why the fuck did they put the controls, way down there? And
that's why, because it was going to sit on top of your organ,
Sorry.
so the controls are right in front of you, and the sheet music's on top of that.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Because that was the market. We don't like to think of the debt that we owe to organs, but organs were the first popular keyboards.
Yeah.
$2,200
Good
for
point.
the Mini Korg 700.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it's kind of a bargain considering the original was 2,000 pounds, and that's at $1974, which I'm sure you could have bought a car for back then.
That's perspective.
Yeah.
Well, that's like what in the documentary Synth Britannia, which is a great documentary.
It is, and watch it on YouTube for free.
Indeed. What Martin Ware was talking about, how he was going to either get a car or get a Mini Korg 700, and to this day he still doesn't have a car.
Yeah, Front 242 made a similar thing where they had to decide between getting a car and a sequencer, and got the sequencer.
And yeah,
because they had won like the Belgian lottery, which was not a ton of money, but enough to buy a car.
or at least a lot of waffles.
Yeah.
Don't forget the French fries. I think the Belgian and the French have an ongoing feud about who invented them, so I'm not going to get involved in that fight. So.
That's what the
What, with the invention of freedom fries?
yes.
Oh.
Yeah, freedom fries. Going down to the Walmart to get my freedom fries.
But yeah, if we can find a link, Christoph, if you can find a link to Synth Britannia and put it up on the channel,
You got
I
it.
think that's to me that's almost like a required watching. That one, and then there was one on Sheffield as well.
One thing about the synth that I will say, and actually, obviously I own the Prophet 5 Rev 4. If you're gonna redo something, it's like, don't fuck with the pylons. You know what I mean? Like, keep all the stuff that made it really cool, like sound, whatever quirks were going on. Keep the interface basically the same, but add on shit that makes sense. Like, don't mess around with it. And the fact that this has got patch memory, it's got MIDI, and even the little knobs that control the filters. That the way it was built is that you had to push both the high pass and the low pass filter together, and people used to apparently saw them off so that the notch allowed you to move them separately. They come with a separate pair of knobs that you can put on there, so you can do it independently if you want. I mean, to me, this is like a labor of love, and I know they brought the original guy, I can't remember his name, who designed this. He works at Korg, and he's like 800 years old, and he had a hand in designing this, and I think it's great. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, Fumio Maeda.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it definitely had like a weird original sound, and if you are big into late 70s, early 80s new wave, then this is the keyboard that was all up it. Because this is also like one of the first of the Korg mass-produced synths as well.
Yeah. So, and yeah, it's not the most powerful synth, but it has that sound. And if you want that sound in hardware, here you go.
Oofda. So yeah, go buy it, and then tell us how you like it, and then send us one too.
Yeah, Korg, if you want to send us a demo
Send
copy.
5 of them.
Yep.
I will.
And then we won't tell anyone that you're really teenage engineering.
Nah.
You're the underwriter for teenage engineering.
Fury.
Yeah.
So the next piece of news is that yes, Virginia, the Moog Clarivox Theremins are actually real. They are finally coming out. It took them about a year, I think. Is that right?
They did the
The announcement was even longer ago.
Like longer
the
than that.
launch where they had I think they had like Dorrit Chrysler and a couple other people doing performance in the Large Hadron Collider. And that was their launch party for these things, and it was at least a year ago. And they're like, they'll be out. They're coming right now. Get your orders in. Here they are. There they are. And then about 6 months ago, they made a statement saying,
JK.
they really are real. Please believe us. and then they just went dark. And then this pre-order popped up on Sweetwater, which was cool, and Perfect Circuit. So they're real.
Yep.
Well, if they'd like to come to Labs Chicago and demo, I'd be more than happy to do it.
So it's a fantastic video that I'm going to share to the chat now. And this came out October 2020.
Is this
Claire de Lune.
Yes, that was my intro to it. Was this video?
And it's beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's for the 100th anniversary of the Theremin's invention. And if anybody in the chat doesn't know, before Bob Moog was making synths, he was making money selling Theremin kits.
Yep.
And you can go to beautiful Asheville, North Carolina, and visit the Moog Museum and see some of the original kits and stuff like that.
Yeah, and when he was making those kits, I think it was based out of New York. I want to say in Ithaca. Right, yeah.
This one's a pretty cool theremin, though. It's sort of like a hybrid theremin / synthesizer, which is kind of interesting. So if you're interested in a theremin, but you're like, I don't know, maybe I want more than sine waves, this one's pretty cool. So it has essentially quantization as well, which is like pitch quantization, which is pretty neat. And so you can pretty reliably hit notes on it. And that's how that Claire de Lune piece was done. And I think that's pretty good. They added that. And then it also has different synthesis engines in it. So you can play a synthesizer, like you can play a Moog synthesizer as if it is a Theremin.
The Theremin actually has a lot of those
That's
features as well.
Does it have a big wing stand?
That's
though?
the white, big
it
white
does-
chassis. Or
It does not have a $300 stand that you can buy for it.
Yeah, this one
Yeah.
plain
Oh, yeah.
built as a collector's item. So
Yes.
if you want a
This is a
Theremin, there are
beautiful
cheaper
theremin,
Theremins you
and
can
once
get.
in a every
it-
like 10 years or so, Moog will roll out these theremins that are just works of art. And that's not
Yeah.
to say I'm not shit talking their non special edition theremins. I have a Theremin. I have a Ether Wave back before Moog got his name back and it was still a big briar. And they're both beautiful instruments. They're both wonderful, but there's something that's just so alien about the way these special edition theremins look. And it's awesome because I mean the theremin is a very alien kind of instrument anyway. When I saw Dory at Chrysler and she asked if I played the theremin, I said I haven't touched it in years, and it's the dumb theremin joke of the century. And she gave
Oh
me the
my gosh, that's
worst
great.
look ever. But it's they're such a weird instrument, and every time I introduce it to somebody who's never heard of a theremin before, their brains explode.
You just say it's
What's
like
that?
a D-beam. You say it's like a D-beam controller.
No, if you explain D-beams, you'd be
exactly.
brain details to your life, Andrew.
But yeah, I have a friend of mine who's like 80 something years old, and he's heard theremins. He knows what they are, but he'd never seen one. He never played with one before. And I was on the phone with him. He's like, "Hey, I heard you got a theremin." I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Can I play it when I'm out there next time?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And I brought it upstairs for him because he can't go downstairs anymore and stuff like that. And I think he was like fucking with it for like 2 hours, and it was just like looked like a little kid. And then I've introduced it to little kids, and they're just like blown away by it too. You know, it's just like it's the same kind of thing. It's one of those instruments that just makes people like, yeah, yeah. They
It's especially
Oh,
fun
yeah.
if you've got it going through delay.
or really big reverbs and stuff like
I
that.
just imagine Jimmy Page doing his like 10-hour theremin
Yeah, right.
solo, you know.
Or Billy Corgan.
Oh my gosh.
Do you have a theremin, Robin?
I do not.
Take to get you into a brand new theremin today.
Well, I was actually going to ask the question because, like, when Andrew was doing the comparison of things, it's like, okay, if someone was like going to go into finding an affordable first-time theremin, what would be the one you would
I would say the
recommend?
Theremin.
Yeah.
The Theremin is inexpensive. Let me pull it up here because I'm sure they have them on the.
And it has the pitch correction,
Yep.
which is the pitch correction is the most compassionate thing they ever invented
Yes.
in a theremin.
So the
Nice.
Theremin is about $400.
That sounds
about,
right.
about $400.
Okay.
It's a digital theremin, but it has the pitch correction in there. It has 32 wavetable based sounds in it, so you don't just have to have woo if you want. It has built-in effects in there.
Not to knock
That
the
was
woos,
good.
but
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has built-in effects. It's-
I'm gonna sample
You
that
should,
bit,
totally.
That was good.
You can program your root node into it and everything like that to begin with, so that way you can actually have it play scales. So you can turn up the cheat mode on these things pretty hardcore.
That's nice.
It mounts right onto a mic stand, so that makes it even easier. You don't have to get a $300 stand for it. And it has USB for for MIDI as well, and it's got pitch and CD.
Yep. They're
Okay,
fun.
noted.
I have a very low tech sort of theremin that a friend gave me as a Christmas present, and it is fun. It is like you can make some extremely nonsense noises with it.
So they're used on Bile's album Techno Whore in the song Solitude is Bliss.
But that's from the inferior Christoph.
Yeah. Well,
That's good stuff, though. I mean, where they pop up always amazes me.
yeah. And they're just fun to use. But they're hard to use well. So that's the advantage of the Theremin, that it has that like additional pitch handicap or control to kind of nudge it to be correct. Because otherwise it's an unwieldy instrument. It's like it's anybody, it's one of those lifetime to master instruments.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
but when you hear somebody that's good with it, it's quite something, like the video I posted.
Yeah, that one or anything that from Clara Rockmore, she was amazing. There's there's a documentary called Theremin, an Electronic Odyssey, which is a great documentary about the history of the Theremin, and it has a whole bunch of footage of Clara Rockmore being grumpy and playing the Theremin, which is great.
Like a good time.
Oh yeah,
Sounds like a good time.
But yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, I love Theremins. Theremins are also featured on Missile Commands. You should have expected this in the background. Not that I'm pimping myself out or anything like that.
That's from the future.
Indeed. Available on X Studios. All right. So yeah, the Moog Claravox is out, available, being pre-ordered. Get a Theremin. Every house needs a Theremin. That was the idea. Because originally when Leon Theremin came out with a Theremin, he licensed it through RCA, and that was RCA's promises. They were going to put a Theremin in every house.
I mean, that's what Joe Biden promised us.
In a sense, Theremin has had his dream fulfilled, because although the Theremin instrument isn't in every house, Theremin also invented the wireless bug.
Yes.
And Amazon Alexa is in so many houses. So everybody's bugged through that, and your Siri is always listening.
Mm-hmm.
So Theremin's wish has been realized.
Yes.
Yeah. Alexa, hail
Okay,
Satan.
Google.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
All right. So, moving on here. We got a couple more stories and 20 minutes to hit. All right. So, Presonus came out with the Presonus X Fender audio interface. This is a 2-channel in, 2-channel out audio interface, going for like $80. Jeff, you put this up.
Yeah.
Jeff, this link is Fugazi.
I was gonna say the
It's
link
totally
doesn't even
Fugazi.
work now.
They took it down.
Yeah.
It was from their email.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
You know what's funny? Jeff, if you Google it, the top hit is this basic link, and it's still Fugazi. So I don't know what's going on.
I mean,
Well,
they did email it to me. It was kind of funny.
They're
Maybe.
trolling ya.
They leaked it a little early. I think a lot of people are waiting to see what Fender's going to do with Presonus. And this is indicative of not much. Which is maybe a good thing. Maybe they're just going to give him some money. That would be cool. But Presonus has made a bunch of audio interfaces. This one's just very inexpensive.
But
Most of the Fender stuff sounds good.
The thing is this is the Audio Box Go.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing.
It is. But this one says
So
Fender on it.
Presonus has one called that. Right?
Well, Presonus makes it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They just slapped the Fender logo on the thing and call it the X Fender,
okay,
but
when
it's
I
the exact
Googled it-
same fucking thing.
But now this one's by Fender.
all the ad show
Yeah, this
for
one's for
actual
guitars.
music stores trying to. Okay.
So that's one more.
So do you think they're just rebranding it, Jeff?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because it's got an instrument cable. It's got and it's got one of those could be an instrument, a mic or line input on there, and it's got 2 outs. So if you're a singer songwriter, and it's all class compliant USB, so you can plug it into whatever, and it'll just work fine.
Yeah, I had the. Yeah, this makes sense. I mean, makes a little one like, and then I think Artillery makes a little one. And I mean, if this was your jam, this would be about the right size. See this making sense?
Yes. So so new that they don't even want us to know about it.
Good job.
I tried to find a link that was working that had more information on it.
Well done.
Yeah. Just go to Personas.
Yeah, go to Personas and look up AudioBox Go. It's the exact same thing.
Yep. Apparently, yeah.
And Personas makes
It's
Personas makes great audio interfaces. The show is being run on a Personas audio interface. They're very intuitive. They're fantastic little boxes, and they're do what it says on the tin. You know, it's one of those devices that just gets the fuck out of your way, which I like.
Yeah, I recently, as I mentioned last show, got the Quantum, and I really love it. I like the preamps on it. I like the simplicity of it. I like that I don't need any fucking management software. You know, it just sort of is there and does exactly what I want. Absolutely. And unlike the Zoom, Zoom had this great idea where they were like, hey, if you put a 1/4-inch cable in here, I'm going to make it really fucking hard for you to get it out, right? Okay, that makes sense if you don't want it to tug out accidentally, right? But otherwise, it's totally stupid. Whereas, like, the Quantum is, because I got a patch bay, I'm moving shit around. That's why I have it set up that way, right? I don't have to break out pliers and winch every time I want to, pull something out. Anyway, I went hardcore tangential there. Sorry, that was tangent core right there. I apologize.
That was good. All right, so go buy that. Cubasis, everybody's favorite thing. Cubasis just updated themselves to 3.4. Cubasis is basically, it's a light version of Cubase that runs on iOS, Android, iPad OS. Wait, does it run on Android, Christoph?
I don't
know.
Cool.
It does.
It does.
I haven't tried it. It's $50. I'm not doing it.
So it's a DAW that runs on mobile devices and stuff like that. They just updated it with Ableton Link support, so you can hook it all into all your other Ableton Link compatible devices and run it wonderfully.
It's only $29.99, Christoph, on the Android.
All right. Well, I mean, actually, the real issue for me is on Android. Android is crippled for running VSTs. I don't think you can run VSTs on iOS.
I know you can run AUs on them.
Yeah.
AUs, but not VSTs, right?
Right.
And I have a library of VSTs. I have the Android sensor limited.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to bother because I already have other. I have Caustic, and if I was in a pinch, I would use Roland Zen Beats.
I think that there's like a whole culture like that guy Jakob Hack that I like, that Swedish guy who makes all of his music, in this kind of format and reviews this kind of stuff. The Sound Test Room, I think, is the other guy from England who does this. I think it's fascinating. Cubase, I failed so hard to love making music on my iPad that I just kind of gave up.
I'm in the same boat. And I know plenty of people, and I love my iPads. I use them all the time, but I don't want to sit around and make music on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm an exception there. So I don't have an iPad, but I love using an app on my phone called Caustic. And I know people that use Android tablets and use Caustic, and it's great. So Caustic is basically Reason. And it works very well, and it's handy that I just have something where if I have an idea, I get it powered up in a second and get that idea out. So I do like that, but it's hard for anything to now compete with that because I like that so much. It was $10, and it's so powerful. So this might be good. I just haven't given it a shot. When I looked at this previously, it was pretty limited. At this point, it's going to be hard for anyone to offer anything to me until the death of Caustic.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like...
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I use the little controllers, like those apps. Like I use the one for Logic and for Studio One. Like to me, that's about as sophisticated as I want to get.
Well, added though, I mean, this Ableton Link this might be super handy. Like right now, I don't have a way to synchronize anything else to my mobile device. So if I did have that,
Right.
that could be super handy. Because right now, I have to export stems and then import them somewhere else, and that's time consuming. This would eliminate that. So I mean, I do see that there's a place for this, and it's might not be for me, but for other people, this might be fantastic news. It might be a game changer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thing is like it's why most people go DAWless is because they work on computers all day and they don't want to work on computers when they make music. I use an iPad for my job. Yeah. I don't use a computer for my job. So I don't want to use an iPad to make music, you know.
Also, I know a lot of people that are terrified of computers, but not terrified of their phones. Like, as an IT person, I've actually had people come in and say, they don't know how to log in because they've never used a computer before, and they got through nursing school without ever having once touched a computer because they did everything on their phone. They wrote papers on their phone.
That's insane.
That's
It is insane, but those people are out
impressive,
there.
but man.
Yep.
All right.
So anyway, for those people, here you go. You can do it on your tablet.
Cubasis 3.4 now available if you already own it as a free update. Otherwise, if you're running on iOS or iPadOS, it's $50. And if you're running it on an Android device, it is $30. Ta-da! So yeah, cool. Moog Music launched a video series featuring some of the most important artists and innovators in modern music history. For some reason, they didn't ask any of us.
I mean, it's just the first episode.
So.
They're just talking to.
They're the building up for you.
I gotta stop the presses here. Cubasis is only $20 until Monday. So until Valentine's Day, it is $19.99. So if you're looking to get somebody a Valentine's Day present, perhaps a Mohawk DJ from New York.
Nothing says I love you like the gift of Cubasis.
Yes.
That is the
happiest of Valentine's Day
better than
presents.
scabies.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
That's gonna be in the commercial. I'm gonna get residuals.
You're the spokesperson.
I've got the log song from Ren and Stimpy in my head now, right?
This isn't being recorded.
It's
right?
better than bad. It's good.
yes.
Yeah, so they have a whole series on giants. And the first installment is with Herb Deutsch. Giant.
Hey, they got Daniel Miller, man,
Yeah.
and Suzanne Ciani.
Yeah. So yeah,
Pretty
keep
cool.
an eye out on watching that. Being released whenever they feel like releasing it, I'm guessing. I don't see how often they're going to be doing it, but yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, they didn't release the cadence, but it was I think Moog does a lot of really nice content like this.
Yeah.
So
Their stuff is always like well produced and looks nice and sounds good and everything like that. Just like, they take care of it much like they take care of their instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, they put the B in boutique. I'll tell you
Indeed.
what.
They put the bougie in boutique.
Well, what's crazy is like when they re-released the Moog, I forget, it was someone that you knew, Andrew, that was saying, hey, I'm going to buy this thing. It was like $3,500. They released the Mini Moog. And I remember thinking, I really like playing with the Moog Fest, but I'm like, just if monos can't patches on for just I love the Prophet 5.
Right.
But, if you look at their whole resale prices now, 7,000-8,000 easy for the reissue. I mean, that would have been a smart, just monetary investment.
So you're saying your hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah, totally. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm not the kind of kid that buys toys leave in the box, so it wouldn't really make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd bought Bitcoin when it was $30 too.
Yeah, it's a choice between Bitcoin and a heavy meth habit, and I really couldn't make up my mind.
That's why I'm investing in NFTs.
But I am with you. I prefer the sound of the Prophet 5 over the Mini Moog, but I understand why people feel, the same way about the Mini Moog sound.
Sure.
And and what I will say is the build quality of the Moog stuff. It does feel quality built. It feels like you're getting this value from it. It's definitely designed to be high-end professional.
Yeah. It means people hand make that stuff. That's crazy.
It shows. It's like you're getting like a luxury synth.
Even their like their mothers and that kind of stuff, they feel luxury synthy.
Yeah.
They're built like fucking tanks.
I can fend off at least 2 ogres with a Mother 32.
Yeah, I mean, how many hit points of damage?
Yeah,
do they
I would
do?
say that they probably, probably like a 2d6. And there was no encumbrance because they're smaller. It's not like a Prophet 6 or a Prophet 5, which is going to give you like a 20, minus 20 in encumbrance.
That's why I need my fucking bag of holding for all this shit, man. Are you kidding me? Where am I going to put this stuff?
There you go.
Perfect. And finally tonight, breaking news on the Motorola emulator. We now go to Christoph live on the scene.
All right, so we reported a while ago that people were working on emulating the old Motorola DSP chips that were used in the Novation Nova series, the Supernova series, and most importantly, the Access Virus series. Those chips are no longer made. They even stopped being made by Motorola a while ago. Another company took them over for a bit, but they stopped making them. So the Access Virus line is dead. Those chips are going to stop being made. They're going to stop being repaired. And it's a shame because it's a beloved synth. I mean, for so many people I know, synth nuts, their absolute favorite synth in their entire collection is their Access Virus. Despite its limitations, when you turn the effects off, it has tremendous power. And so people love the virus, and now it's being given a second life. Somebody has done an emulation of a single Motorola DSP chip, and with that, if you own a Access Virus B or C ROM, you can load up this emulator, and you can load your Virus B and Virus C patches and play them out in a VST 2 or 3. And they made it for Mac, PC, and Linux. So I tested it out, and
cool.
For the Virus B and C, it has a full-fledged editor, so you don't need. But it will also respond to an external editor, so you now have access to the virus sounds, including its effects processor, which was also Motorola DSP.
Wow.
So, and I did a little bit of testing with it. It ran. It played the sounds. It sounded good. So, it's very processor hungry, as emulating a different processor will always do. Think of it as virtualization.
Sure.
There's always a hit with virtualization and changing instruction sets. They're not going to be able to do something like the Virus TI, because that's using more than one chip at the same time. That's a completely different emulation. They've also stated that they don't want to emulate anything that is currently sold in stores. So they're not giving away the ROMs. If you don't own the ROM, you can't use this emulation. But if you have an Access Virus and you have the ROM, you can load it up, either the B or the C, and you can now run an Access Virus in your
That's pretty
DOM.
impressive.
It's amazing. So this is just a very good story for me.
What happened to that guy? Didn't he started making virtual amps or something, and then kind of fell off?
Last I heard, he was getting back into the idea of making synths again, but that's the last I heard, and that was like about 3 years ago.
Yeah, the Kemper Profiler.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Have you played with
Virus
that one,
is
Jeff?
better.
Yeah.
I am I'm kind of a guitar purist. I don't know. I don't like guitar emulations. I like I like tube amps and analog effects. So I'm a bad judge of character for the Kemper Profiler, but it doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, I had one of those early Vox ones, and the VT something or another.
Oh yeah.
And it's not good. It is what it is.
Yeah, it could be useful. It's got a purpose, but I don't know. The Profiler is pretty expensive, and for how much it costs, getting there with other stuff, I think is better.
Yeah. But I mean, this is just like the sort of like, talk about genres. I mean, this sort of like early 2000s, late 90s, like EBM, and so many genres use these things to such an extent. I mean, they're really iconic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
V&V Nation wrote all the entire albums based upon the presets off of the Access Virus.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
It's an absolutely iconic synth. Its presets are just well known, especially those effects. With the effects processor on, you can pull out its sound like that. Same with the Nation Nova series. When the effects processor is on, if you have the ear for it, you can always recognize it. Yeah.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around why this guy would make mediocre guitar amp emulation when he could be making a fortune re-releasing these. It just seems weird to me.
Well, they're still for sale. Yeah, like you can still get an Access Virus.
New?
You can get the TI2, yeah. That is for sale. The rest are not, because the chips have gone out of production.
You can get like the TI2 and.
And Access Virus, Access got bought out by another company a while ago, and they are working on new products, but they are not working on a successor to the Access Virus because the chips are gone. So the code is largely written in assembler, so it's not like it's an easy port to something else. It was assembler code written to exploit the intricacies of this chip, which no longer exists. So the architecture is done. So there won't be another Access Virus. There won't be a TI3. They're working on a new synth. What's his name? Hartman. What's his first?
Axel?
He's working on a new synth with them, but he said it's not going to be a new virus.
I mean, it's got such a unique sound. I mean, it's funny because they almost took like analog emulation and said, we're going to make this fucking digital and it's still going to sound really good. I mean, it's just kind of a unique palette. If you like it, you really like it, and it does what it does. And I think, Christoph, you mentioned that the Kira was trying to sort of muscle into that space a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
it's kind of viewed as the successor, but based on wavetables. And this is, this also, I think some of the oscillators in the virus are kind of wavetable-y, but without the modulation. But I think they're that kind of DCO.
Got it.
But the thing is, when you turn off the effects, if you program the synth, it's versatile. The one thing it doesn't have is the ability to have the kind of random detuning that the DeepMind has. That'll make it much more analogish and give it that shimmer. But for everything else, when you turn the effects off, it can do a lot. It's a very capable synth if you program it.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that the Super Saw gets so overdone, just like the JP8000 is overused on its Super Saw. So people equate that synth with that sound because that's what so many people exploit it for. But, it's got the other analog waves, and it'll do tons of different sounds. So, but the presets are super famous and all over everything. And they're all going to vanish. They're not going to keep making this synth.
Jeff, is that a analog modeling Qatar, or is that a?
Yeah, that's actually an analog Qatar. Nice. Yeah, the Kyra definitely is attempting to be the successor to it, and they did say that it was a wavetable synth, and technically it does have a bunch of single cycle waveforms in it that may have been some sort of wavetable, but it's just a VA synth
with a terrible interface.
Yes.
It was actually the worst interface.
Not as bad as Yamaha, but bad.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I ran away from the Kira when I played with it at NobCon. That's how bad it was. Like I walked up to him like, "Oh, Akira," and then I looked at him like, "Oh, fuck this," and I walked away from it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna go back and play with the Hydra
I've
Synth
used
some
the
more. You know.
I mean, yeah.
And like a Yamaha montage, for instance, has a kind of a complicated interface. But if it's like a 7 out of 10 hard, the Kyra is like a easy slam dunk 10.
Yeah, I sat there, Andrew, and I think I still was using the cane at that point. And so I remember you were able to sit down to play with the Keurig. It was hooked up to, I think, the STVC or something else as a controller. Because I think Korg was distributing for Waldorf. And, you're absolutely right. I mean, I just went through presets, and I spent some quality time so I could sit. And some of the presets sounded really, really good. It is true. I wouldn't not want to edit patches or create new ones on this thing.
And I'm a first impression person, and I have a really tough time getting past a first impression. And it's just kind of like it's the same thing with like the modals and stuff like that. When I saw that in Continent, I was like, I can't read the text because it's the same color as the paint that's on this thing. Fuck this! I just like wouldn't even touch it because I'm like, what the fuck? I don't even know what the fuck this thing is. Fuck this thing. No.
That was like such a fucking Roland move. You know what I mean? Like the JDXI, which is like everything's in red.
And to
light,
be fair,
you know?
that was what they had there was a pre-production model, and the production model they did not do that with the paint and everything like that. And from what I understand, the modals are great synths and stuff like that. But I still won't buy one because of that, because it left such a bad taste in my mouth. And it's dumb and it's illogical, but that's just how I am, and I recognize this about myself somehow. But I will literally just be like,
the world beware.
Yeah, no kidding.
You better make Andrew in the first 15 seconds.
My attention span has gone elsewhere. Anyway. Well, that's exciting news, Christoph, about the emulation, and I'm hoping that they continue doing that. It'll be interesting. What I would be interested to see is if the dude from Access kind of gives them blessings to let them use the ROMs.
That would be cool.
Because they're not doing anything with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I bet you could find one on the
better,
internet, though.
Probably.
People always complained about how the TI integration was faulty. And here you could kind of do what the TI's promise was all along and run the virus entirely within your DAW.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Which I know was in theory possible with the TDM system, but it wasn't a real virus, either. And that was also using Motorola chips. But the implementation was different, so it didn't sound as good, and it wasn't patch compatible.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for tonight. Look at us. We made it through the news.
Woo!
Yeah.
There's not much news considering, I mean, there's no NAMM this year again, or not until July. I think they moved it to July. So we're still seeing some releases coming out, like the 1010 gear and stuff like that, and the blue ARP and all those kinds of things. So thanks all for watching and hanging out with us tonight. Hope you had fun. If you're not following, do follow. We do other weird shit on here, like streams of videos, me yelling at other like inanimate objects, not just bitching about them. And then we also have a record label that you can buy records off of, not physical records, but digital ones. Making physical stuff's expensive. We don't have money. We're too busy buying synths. So yeah, thanks all for watching. Let me find somebody over who is on that we can raid over to. Oh, well, Mr. Horologist is still on. That's who.
Cool.
I think we should. Is everyone ready for some good, gentle horology?
With some happy little gears.
Yeah. All right. Usually we move over to Bard, but she was on like at 5 today or something like that, wasn't she?
Yeah,
she was on really early tonight, so she must be working or something. I don't know. All right. Womper says, thank you, skinny puppy guy. I like that you're...
My pleasure, Wampra.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks for more tangents. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.